The kid is starting to get rambunctious upstairs, man. You hear that at all?
No, I can't.
Sounds like small horses running around. What's going on, everybody? We are back again. We're talking about Big Brew Day collaborative recipes between Imperial Yeast and Chop and Brew. We're talking to Dry-Hopped Kölsch with Alex Gruber, technical service guru at Imperial Yeast. And Alex, you actually kind of came up with this recipe when I just threw out the idea of doing something light and springy, something that people could turn maybe kind of quick as well. You know, the Big Brew Day, the official Big Brew Day recipes are both either like really big or they're loggers, so they're going to take a minute. I thought we should throw something to the people that could turn pretty quick. And you came up with this recipe. Just real quick, kind of tell me, we'll get into the recipe and the fermentation more specifically, but in your mind, why did it go here? You're telling me a little bit before we started rolling about how the gears were turning for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was talking about the fact that, I mean, most of my brewing experiences as a professional brewer, and that doesn't always come with the same level of freedom that there is in home brewing. And so with kind of doing a dry hopped Kolsch, to me, you're already kind of, you're pushing my natural limits of what feels right. And so I kind of, originally I went with a Saphir dry hop, which is kind of a bit of a, has a traditional vibe to it, but as you pointed out, that's a kind of hard hop to come by. But if you wanted to go with something like that, like you could go with like a Hallertau middle brew or something in your dry hop to keep it a little more traditional. But I loved your suggestion of the Amarillo too, and it's kind of like, if you're gonna dry hop a Kolsch, have fun with it. I mean, it's you know, it's homebrew. You know, try stuff out.
Here's a look at the recipe at a glance. We got for a grist Pilsner malt, malted white wheat, some Vienna, a little bit of acidulated. Mash this is at 148, which surprised me. So definitely on the lower end of mash temp. Hops, Satz for bittering, Hallertau Mittelfrüh at 10 minutes for flavor aroma. Then as we discussed, we're flipping the script with an addition of dry hops. In this case, it's kind of choose your own adventure, but we kind of put Amarillo in the mix for that orangey citrus character. Alex and crew are suggesting you ferment the beer with Imperial G03 Deiter or G02 Kaiser. About to talk about the difference between them. As you already said, we're dry hopping a Kolsch, so that doesn't usually happen, right?
No, I think you might not be let into Germany if you were asking for that.
But even before the hops, tell me a little bit about this 148 mash temp, because that to me seems really low. A lot of Kolsches I feel like I've had don't feel like that, but maybe they are. Or is this because we know what we're doing with the hops to it later?
Yeah, I think you could definitely go higher. I like 148 for this one. Again, kind of thinking about thinking about the time of year, kind of what I want. I'm looking for a pretty crisp finish with this. I don't need a ton of extra body, particularly with the wheat that's going to be in there. That's going to contribute some there. I also kind of love the idea of a Kolsch. What I'm kind of going for is a super like clean, crisp beer that definitely the dry hop is going to add a little bit of nuance to that. But also with that wheat, I'm looking for kind of some nice head retention, so you can get that nice, like that thick kind of foamy head on there. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I had in mind for this one. Again, it's homebrew. You can go higher with the mash temp if you want, but give it a shot at 148.
And then we're going to dry hop it. And when you say dry hop, you know, these days when I hear dry hop, I'm fermentation hopping maybe 2 or 3 days before terminal gravity. Is there a reason why if somebody thinks like I do that they should hold off and do a true dry hop, or do you find they're kind of synonymous in approach at this point?
Yeah, I think when you start talking dry hops, it really depends on what you're looking for. I think in this one, I recommended trying to hit it right before the end of fermentation. I particularly like that in here because you're gonna get a little bit of yeast activity with the hops in here. And particularly if you decide to use G02 Kaiser with this, we've seen some pretty interesting preliminary results of how Kaiser plays with hops in terms of man, I try to shy away from this word, but in terms of that like biotransformation and the real new age tropical hop aromas that you're looking for, which again, if you're going to go untraditional with the Kölsch, just go untraditional and try to do that. So that's why I was kind of recommending it then. But in terms of when you want to dry hop, yeah, you'd go more traditional and you could wait for the fermentation to be finished and then get the hops in there if you wanted to do that, or you go earlier. The one thing I would look out for is, because you're going to have a little bit of extra protein in this beer from that wheat, if you are going to do an active fermentation or very end of fermentation dry hop, I would expect to see a little bit of kind of haze that's going to stick around that you're going to have a hard time getting rid of. That's just going to be that protein polyphenol interaction that you're promoting. And you know, it's homebrew. It doesn't have to be BJCP guidelines all the time. So have fun with it.
My German grandmother is very upset about this hazy Kolsch.
I mean, you're already dry hopping it, so I mean.
You kind of said with Deiter, you can expect kind of some big orange peel flavors from that dry hop edition. With Kaiser, we're looking cleaner, crisper, zingier, which I love that adjective. Kind of just talk about those two strains a little bit in their range, and for a beer like this where you kind of want to keep them.
Yeah, so I think of the two, Kaiser is going to be a little bit more versatile. G03 Deiter is going to be the more traditional kind of Kolsch style yeast if you're looking for something fairly straightforward. Again, maybe if you're looking at doing that dry hop with something like a Hallertau Middle Brew or something like that, I think Deiter would probably be the one. And a pretty standard like knockout at 62, maybe let it rise up to 64 for your fermentation, I think is what I recommended in there. That'll keep it pretty straightforward. As far as the Kaiser, you could probably go in that same temperature range, but it can do some more fun stuff with dry hop. So if you're going to use the G02 Kaiser, I'd maybe branch out a little bit with your dry hop, choose something fun, maybe go wild and I don't know, find something from Southern Hemisphere or something like that.
Yeah, because that malt bill just kind of like opens the door, right? It's just this like crisp blonde base that a lot of things could play well on.
Yep. Yeah, totally. It's pretty straightforward. It leaves some flexibility for sure.
All right, so the recipe for our dry hopped Kolsch, not too hazy, is going to be at chopandbrew.com/recipes. Alex, thanks again for hooking us up with this recipe and the notes. And my friend Paul and I are planning to brew both the Saison and the Kolsch. And so we'll have some real life examples at some point. My goal was to brew them before, like long before Big Brew Day. And then like life got hectic in April. So now we'll probably brew it for Big Brew Day or after, since we're getting this awesome wort hookup on Big Brew Day. Anyway, that's a whole other video. I appreciate you guys. If you brew this beer on Big Brew Day or anytime, make sure to tag Imperial Yeast and Chop and Brew. Let us know what's going on. If you got any questions, hit us up. Slide into those DMs with your technical service questions. All right. Cheers, brother.
Thanks.